Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It is Kira, your favorite trauma-informed money coach from Budget and Heal, where I help women to get out of debt and out of financial survival mode through financial literacy, personal development, and accountability. And we do this inside of community, okay? Because this is not a journey you want to take alone. Okay, so you guys know my style. I typically jump right into things because I value your time and I want to show you that respect. So I do have an agenda for today. I'm going to talk about the things that I do before I actually sit down to budget, guys. Before we budget, it's important to ground ourselves and set the vibes, right? So what do I mean by that? Before you sit down to do a budget, particularly if creating a budget or facing your numbers act as a trigger for you, I want you to create a vibe, right? So that means throw on your favorite pajamas, grab your favorite blankie if you have to, right? Light your favorite candle, grab your favorite snack, put on your favorite music, right? You want to create a vibe so that when you sit down to finally do your budget, right, it's not a frictional experience. It's not a very triggering, like rough experience, right? So you want to create and set that vibe so that you ground yourself so that you are ready and prepared to look at your numbers and do it in a way that feels safe and comfortable for you so that you'll be able to continue doing so, okay? In addition to setting the vibes, what's very important is to close out your previous paycheck. And the way that we do that, guys, is we grab our receipts. Remember, I told you guys in a previous video, you grab all of your receipts, right? And the receipts specifically that you're going to grab, guys, are, for me, the receipts that I'm going to grab is from my last paycheck up until the day before my current paycheck. So for me, my last paycheck was November 30th. So I'm going to grab all the receipts from November 30th to December 14th, which is the day before I receive my current paycheck. So why are we going through those receipts? We're going through those receipts with intention and purpose, right? We are looking at the receipts and we have at the same time, we're looking at our checking account transactions. We're looking at our credit card transactions, right? And we're comparing, we're making sure that each and every one of those transactions have cleared. Right? We talked about this in a previous video, but I just want to bring it to your attention again, how important it is to create these systems, right? Oftentimes we talk about habits, but sometimes that habit is not going to, sometimes your habit won't necessarily support you in doing things consistently, right? So you want to create systems to make sure that whether you feel like doing this or not, this is going to make sure that you're able to sustain these these systems, okay? And this is one of your money systems. Comparing, I believe they call it reconciliation. We're not going with no big words. All we're doing is comparing our receipts to our transactions that are on our checking account, as well as our checking account, as well as our credit card accounts, okay? We're looking at the transactions, making sure they're cleared. They are not pending because we don't want to think we have extra money in our account when we actually don't, okay? So if you look here, I even printed out my transactions from my bank account, right? And the reason why I do that, I just do it just to do it, to be honest. I do it because it just makes things crystal clear. Is this something you're going to have to do each and every time? No, you're not going to have to do this. This is what you're going to do starting out, creating systems for yourself to show you how to work through this process in a way that is calming to you, in a way that builds your confidence, right? And in a way that is actually sustainable. So FYI, no, you're not going to have to always go through all of these steps. But when you're first starting out, these steps are building your foundation, okay? So they are very, very, very important, okay? And while you're comparing your receipts and your transactions, you also want to make sure that you are mindful of when your credit card is due, right? You're already in there looking at transactions, seeing if they cleared or if they're still pending. So it's best habit to ensure when is your credit card due. And this is specifically if you don't have your payments on auto pay. Okay. You want to take note of when your credit card bill is due. All right. Another step that is important to take after you have compared your receipts to your transactions on your debit, right, checking account, as well as your credit card, you also want to write out like manually, write out all of your bills for the month, right? And after you write out all of your bills, you want to put the due date next to each bill. So as you're writing them, think about when these bills are due and write them out based on their due date, okay? As you write out the due dates next to each bill, you're then going to utilize the paycheck budget. And what you're going to do is write down the bill. So for me, I will write down all of my bills let's say, for instance, I write down all of my bills for December, right? And then I put the date next to each and every bill. Each and every bill that is due from December 15th through December 29th, they go on this paycheck budget. Okay? You guys can see the screen. You guys can see the paycheck budget on the screen. They go on this particular paycheck budget. As a reminder, this paycheck budget is for one paycheck. It is not for the entire month. It's for one paycheck, and it was created to prevent overwhelm. Okay? So all of the bills for me, from December 15th through December 29th, is put onto my paycheck budget. Why? Because this paycheck only covers bills from December 15th through December 29th. Okay. December 30th, I'll get my next paycheck. And then from December 30th to January 14th, that'll be for the following paycheck budget. Okay. Hopefully that's not confusing to you guys. All right. So now we are going to transition into the actual paycheck budget. So with that being said, I received, no surprise there, $1,803.30 for my paycheck, okay, as a school nurse. Windfall money. Windfall money is any money that just came to you and you like, oh, I wasn't planning on this. Oh, this is clutch, right? I received $450. I told you guys about that on my micro money date video. If you haven't checked that out, check that out. Very helpful information. So I received $450 from the Anchor program. I transferred $826.46 from one sinking fund. And then I transferred $550 from another sinking fund, which brings my total to $3,629.76. Okay. Now, very important to take note, even me transferring money from my sinking fund can be emotionally tough sometimes because there's levels. I always say, like, there's levels to this money thing, right? And you work so hard to get yourself to a position to where you're able to save money. And then you begin to save money. And then you have to spend the money that you saved for a specific reason, right? It sounds very simple, but emotionally, it's not always that easy. So if you're feeling the same things to whereas you finally get into a point where you're saving money and then you have to use that money that you saved, you're not alone. A lot of us struggle with that, and it is a work in progress. Okay. But it's important for us to be mindful of having a scarcity mindset and to remember and understand that nothing comes to us with a closed fist, right? So we make money to save money and to spend money and to give money and to invest money, right? It is a tool. It is not to be, money is not intended to be utilized to control us, okay? To control our emotions. So we always want to be mindful of that, okay? Now, I forgot to read the quote on top. It says in the income section, it says, count your blessings. Each paycheck is a stepping stone toward your goals. Okay. Now we're going to come over to the savings section. My favorite section. I'm not going to lie. It says, think and plan ahead. Your future self will thank you for the choices you make today. So as you guys know, I talk about having a fully funded, what some call an emergency fund. But in lieu of the current economy, I still contribute money. I still contribute money to my stress-free sinking fund every single pay period. So this pay period, I contributed $100. To my household sinking fund, I contributed $273.16. To my investment account, I contributed $400. And then I contributed an extra $437.50 to my Roth IRA. Now, if you've been following me for a while, I only been up here a couple months, but if you've been following my videos, I typically pay myself via Roth IRA on with my last paycheck, which is the 30th of the month paycheck. But because my goal is to max out my Roth IRA this year, I transferred the extra $437.50 to meet that quota. I haven't met it yet. I'm $437.50 away. So December 30th paycheck I will have maxed out my Roth IRA. Yay! Right? So my total, and FYI guys, that money, the $437.50, FYI, came from my high yield savings account. I transfer because in my high yield savings account, I typically make between $98 and $111 every month by doing absolutely nothing but leaving the money in there. So if you do not have a high yield savings account, please get you one. And make sure it's FDIC insured, and make sure it's actually a bank, right? And not a fintech company, right? Nonetheless, I transferred money from my high yield savings account, the interest, and I use that to fund my Roth IRA. So I'm using, my money is making money, and then I'm using that money to make more money, right? I'm being very intentional and purposeful with the money. So my totals and savings for this pay period is $1,210.66, right? And then we come down to the recurring bills, which it says, pay your bills on time. Punctual payments pave the path to peace. It also increases your credit score, okay? Because in case you didn't know, that is the biggest hit people typically take, right? Is making late payments. That drops your credit score drastically. So make sure y'all pay your credit cards on time, please. Rent, $694.82. Food, I budgeted for $50, but I actually spent $162.81. Gas, I budgeted for $30, but I actually spent $37.45, which brings my total recurring bills that I pay over and over again, to $895.08. Okay. Now, when we come to our flexible spending section, it says, spend wisely. Each decision you make today shapes your financial freedom tomorrow. So just reminding us to be intentional about the way we spend. Not that we shouldn't spend, not that we can't spend, but to be intentional about the way in which we spend. Okay. We had a wedding expense. I budgeted for $838.96, but it was actually $801.99. Our pastor's having a party. I believe it's his anniversary, actually. That is $75. Easy Pass, New York City. You guys remember last month when I told you I went to see my sister in New York City and I paid the Easy Pass ahead of time? Well, I guess it didn't go through on their end because I had to pay them $13.50, which I did. I don't play like that. I also ordered a 14-day detox. That was $99.50. I plan on doing the detox, guys, while I'm on winter break from school. I got an oil change. Though I budgeted for $55, but I actually paid $75. He charged $65, but because they came to pick up my car and drop my vehicle off, so it was like so convenient, and I'm so grateful. I just gave him a $10 tip. They are right across the street, but I appreciate convenience because that's not something they had to do. It saved me time. It really saved me money because I was able to be at work working, making money essentially, right? While I'm getting my car service. And it didn't disrupt anything because they came to pick it up and they came to drop it back off. So that's super cool. I also spent more money, guys, from my high yield savings account. I budgeted $102.99 for some work uniforms because my work uniforms had gotten grease stains on it. It just didn't look presentable, right? And that's important. So I budgeted $102.99, but I actually spent $91.68 for work uniform scrubs, right? And I'm not gonna lie, guys, I utilized that money. I purchased that again using interest from my high yield savings account. So this isn't money that I took from my paycheck to buy. I took the money from my high yield savings account to pay for these uniforms from the interest that I've earned from leaving my money inside of the bank. It continues to grow. They pay me for doing so, okay? And then I had $10. I paid $10 for a copay. I actually had to go to the doctor, guys. Quick story. I had to go to the doctor because right here was hurting, right? And I was like, what is that? So when I inhaled, it was hurting. And I'm like, what is that? So I went to the doctor. I got blood work, EKG, chest x-ray. Everything was fine. Everything turned out normal. What I believe it was, in all honesty, guys, I believe it was stress. I believe it was stress because I was under a lot of pressure. From October, I think I told you guys, from October to December, I always do a test run of my New Year goals. Well, that test run let me know I had to do some modifications because I was so overwhelmed with things, and I began to get further away from the actual goal. So just to give you guys a little bit more context, I'm studying for my accredited financial counselor certification, right? And inside of the program, they offer access to hours because you have to get 1,000 clinical hours. Now, I do have a business, Budget and Hill, where I coach women, right? One-on-one group coaching. I do workshops, right? I do workshops, things of that nature. But I wanted to see if me volunteering would, be helpful, would be beneficial. What's that like? I could meet more people, create more impact. Well, I did that for 3 months. It was so good. I learned so much. And obviously I helped them in a way that I know how to help them, right? At the same time, I was overwhelmed. I wasn't even able to study for my AFC. I wasn't able to study the work because I was so busy doing volunteering that I was like, oh, okay, I have to modify things. But that's why it's so good to do a test run from October to December before January comes. So when January comes, you hit the ground running. Okay, I made the modifications I need to make. And I'm off to the races, right? So I say all that to say I believe it was stress. And FYI, guys, you guys know I'm a registered nurse also. I'm not your nurse, but I'm a registered nurse, right? And I believe what happened was I was under a lot of stress. And when we're under stress, our body releases hormones, right? And I think that was an after effect of that. Because when I came home, I forgot the doctor prescribed something, but I didn't take it. I didn't take it because, in all honesty, I felt like my body can heal itself. And what I did do was I did come home and I drank some ginger tea, right? And I promise you, I'm not lying. I drank like a couple of glasses of ginger tea, and I did that. It went right away. When I say right away, it left like right away. And you guys know tea is an anti-inflammatory. So I'm like, okay, if all this is going on, let me eat something natural. I'm not telling you guys to do it. I'm just telling you what I did, and it did work. Okay, so that's my spiel. I just wanted to give you guys some context. Okay, we don't have any debt payments. You know why? Because we said, remember in our previous videos, I said that I'm going on a credit card holiday in which I'm not utilizing my credit card. So I have not. Okay. Now, so that brings our total. Oh, wait. So in a budget summary, it says, take control of your finances. You got this. Okay. So Total spent. The total that I spent, just the FYI, the total that I had come in was $3,629.76. My battery died, but we back at it like we never left. Okay. So FYI, how much came in? $3,629.76. How much did we spend? $3,272.41. How much do we have left? $357.35. Okay. And then I have listed here my next money date. So we got, wait, let's pause for a minute. We got money left over. Yay. Let's show some gratitude for what we have left over, right? You guys remember in one of my paycheck budgets videos, I had 55 cents left over and I was grateful. I'm just as grateful for having 55 cents left over as I am for having $357.35 left over, because it's all a blessing, right? And here, my next money date is for December 26th, 2025. So guys, now that brings us to our cash flow compass. You know the routine. We write down each and every category, right? And then I write down the amount, the due date. If it doesn't really have a due date, I'll just write none. So for example, like groceries, gas, our wedding expense, that didn't really have a due date, a close one anyway. It didn't really have a due date, so I just wrote none. And then I write the day that I paid it or the day that I plan to pay it. In the note sections, guys, I write down where the money came from. Am I paying it from my checking account? Am I paying it from our wedding sinking fund? Am I paying it from my high yield interest payments, right? Where am I paying it from? I write that down, and then I'll simply just check off when it actually cleared, okay? Not when I paid it, when it actually cleared. And that's super important because that lets me know, okay, this is done. Now, as you guys can see, if you look at past the party, that's pending. I'm going to pay with cash. We actually had our holiday party, the church holiday party yesterday, but I didn't want to give them the money yesterday at a party because it's like you're in a party mode. You don't want to be taking account of nobody's money. So I was like, I'll just give it to them Sunday. So that's why this isn't checked off. But Sunday, I will check this off, okay? And that, guys, is my paycheck budget, my first paycheck for December. And December 15th paycheck. And I'm just so grateful to be able to take this journey with you guys. I hope these videos are helpful. Please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and share if you care. Also, put in the comments if you guys gain any value from this video. If there's something you guys would like to know that I haven't touched on, please, we are a community. Let me know. I'm here. I'm open. I'm grateful. Thank you so much for watching. Have an amazing weekend ahead. And I pray that you and your family and your friends circles are safe, healthy, and having an amazing life no matter what situation you are in, okay? It gets better. It will get better, okay? God bless y'all. Later.